Hi everybody, Jim Brill talking about 2012 Australian Open's first Grand Slam of the year. I talked to you guys about fourth round matches last time and told you many good matches that were to be played, and that ended up being the case. There were a lot of players that left the court demoralized and dejected, and some just relieved to get by. I'm going to talk about the men's draw and then talk about what I think is going to happen further on in the draw. Nadal played Feliciano Lopez yesterday, fellow Spaniard, more of a hard-court Spaniard, but he's got the number of all the Spaniards, and he won that match easily in straight sets, 6-4, 6-2, 6-2. No problems at all whatsoever. And he faces Thomas Berdych. Thomas Berdych had played Nicolas Almagro, who is a clay court player himself, another Spaniard. And Almagro ended up taking the first set, which was surprising to me. But the next three sets, he won 7-6, 7-6, 7-6. But in the tiebreaker in the final set, at 2-all, he hit a forehand volley drop shot, and Nicolas Almagro barely got to it. He just spitted it back right at his opponent, and that's what you should do at that situation, because you want to hit the ball right at your opponent if you're out of position, because that way it brings them out of position. Well, it ended up pegging him in the side of the arm, and he got very angry and did not shake his hand at the net at the end of the match and had some words with him. And that pretty much spurred on the Australian crowd. And in the post-match interview on court, I couldn't even hear Thomas Berdych speak because the boos were so loud. I've never seen anybody get booed at the Australian Open like Thomas Berdych got booed. So next round he has to play number 2 in the world, Nadal, and the booing and the hatred of the Australian crowd. And then the winner of that match plays the winner of Roger Federer and Juan Martín del Potro. They had easy wins. Roger Federer playing Bernard Tomic, who's the Australian Open young up-and-comer, and he showed why he's the best in the world and won that match pretty easily. Everybody thought it was going to be a tough match for him, but I didn't. And then Juan Martín del Potro, he lost the first set of the tournament that he played, but ever since then he's just been cruising. He has not lost a set, and winning the 2009 U.S. Open after that, he had wrist surgery in 2010, and he played very little in 2011, so this is his year. He's back, he's healthy, and he beat Nadal and Federer back-to-back to win that 2009 U.S. Open. So I was talking about yesterday how, it's the first time that Nadal and Federer are on the same side of the draw. Well, they might not face each other because both of them are facing really tough customers. Berdych has beaten Nadal. He beat him 3 times in a row in the summer of 2005. So he's had Nadal's number several times, and he's also beaten Federer as well. And Juan Martín del Potro has beaten both of them several times. So that'll be a very interesting side of the draw. Whoever gets through there should just be happy to be in the finals. But anyway, then next up you have Andy Murray. Andy Murray won easily. He basically Kukushkin, who I had never heard of before this tournament, ended up getting into the 4th round and playing Andy Murray, but he had all sorts of issues, had all sorts of injury problems. Lost 6-1, 6-1 in the first 2 sets, and then was down love 1, and just retired from the match. He had enough. He was just getting mental and physically broken down. So he was just like, forget it, I'm done. And Andy Murray, he can break through. He's gotten to the Australian Open Finals twice, and he's made the U.S. Open Finals once, but he's never won that final match, that final 7th match that you need to win the Grand Slam. And then, the number 1 player in the world, Novak Djokovic, he played Leighton Hewitt. Leighton Hewitt, we all know, he's former number 1 in the world, finished 2 years number 1 in 2001, 2002, winning the U.S. Open and Wimbledon. And ever since 2005 in Australia, he got to the finals there, and he has been plagued with injuries ever since. So it was a tough match for Djokovic. He lost a set, went to 4 sets, but in the 4th set, he ran away with it, won the match pretty handily, pretty easily. And so I still think Djokovic is the overwhelming favorite. He found his game down under in Australia in 2008, and then he followed it up in 2011 winning his first Grand Slam in 2011, and then winning 2 more after that. So he's plays really, really good in Australia, and he's playing really, really well now. He has not lost a set, or he actually only lost 1 set last round, but he's not lost a set in previous matches before that. He plays David Ferrer. David Ferrer played Richard Gasquet, and that was going to be a good match, I thought. But David Ferrer evidently did not think so. He won 6-4, 6-4, 6-1 super easily. Gasquet is a talented French player. He's beaten Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. He's beaten a lot of different players, but he's just very, very sporadic. You never know what kind of game you're going to get when he comes on the court. So I definitely picked Djokovic to come through that side of the draw for sure, and I have no idea. It's a 50-50 toss-up between Del Potro and Federer to get through there. I think Nadal will get that through on the bottom half. So I think it'll be either Federer Nadal versus Federer or Del Potro versus Nadal, and it'll be Djokovic in the final. I have a feeling of that. Now, on the women's side of things, we have the #1 player in the world, Caroline Wozniacki, took the court, and she took it to Jelena Jankovic. Jelena Jankovic finished number 1 in 2008. She's never won a Grand Slam, though. Neither has Caroline Wozniacki. And Wozniacki's #1 in the world now, and she's second straight year #1 in the world, but never won a Grand Slam. All the Grand Slam holders are outside of the #1, it seems like, because the women play so little tournaments to get their ranking up. But she took care of that match handily. She was up 6-0, 4-1. Jankovic had a little run there to go at 5-4, but Wozniacki reeled up 3 straight games to go up to win 7-5 in the final set. And Petra Kvitova is the #2 seed. She's the odd maker favorite to win the whole entire tournament. She played Annie Ivanovic, who's also former #1 in the world, and Serbian, just like Jelena Jankovic. And she won the French Open Championship in 2008. Well, she had no answers against Kvitova, the Wimbledon champion and year-end champion last year and #2 player in the world, who I think will do damage and will probably end up #1 in the world after this tournament. But she won the first set 6-2 easily, and they held on to 6-all, and then she took it to her in the tiebreak 7-2. And so she won pretty handily. And then we have Sara Errani. Sara Errani took over Sam Stosur's part of the draw. She's an Australian Open player, and Soriana Cirstea stunned her in the first round, beating her 2 straight sets, and she stole her draw, and then Errani ended up beating Cirstea in the round before that, so she's into her first Grand Slam quarterfinal. How's she going to handle those nerves against Petra Kvitova, who's a dominant player right now? So I definitely pick Kvitova to win that one. I think Irani's just happy that she's in the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam, and she's getting a fat check because of it. And then next up, we have Victoria Azarenka. Victoria Azarenka has been playing the best. She's the second odds maker favorite to win the whole entire thing, and she has not lost a set. She's lost very few games getting to the 4th round, and she plays Agi Radwanska. And Agi Radwanska is a good Polish player, #8 in the world. Has always been really solid. You don't know, she can beat good players, but she's just a counterpuncher. She doesn't attack or do anything like that. She doesn't have any big weapon. So I think that Azarenka will get through that match. But we'll see how her nerves hold up. Azarenka's been the favorite to win Grand Slam titles all last year at Wimbledon and the French Open, and she ended up falling short in the semifinals and then in the quarterfinals at Wimbledon with all the expectation on her. But she's under the radar in this tournament, and it's all on Kvitova and other players, and so she's just flying under the radar. Another player flying under the radar is Maria Sharapova. Maria Sharapova, last year, semifinals at Roland Garros on the red clay. She never played well at the French Open, ever, and she gets to the semifinals there. Then the finals of Wimbledon, losing to Kvitova. So yeah, she's playing really, really well. So she's on the top half of the draw, and she was to face Serena Williams. But Serena Williams lost today, which is the biggest surprise of the tournament. She lost to Makarova. Makarova, she's a crafty left-handed player, but Serena Williams, like I said in the last comment, she's won 5 Australian Open championships, and I've never seen any player at any tournament call themselves to win a Grand Slam, claw their way back to win a Grand Slam more than Serena Williams has at the Australian Open. So even when she was down 6-3, 5-2, I still thought that she was going to come back, but she didn't. She had an ankle injury. She was playing 2 feet behind the baseline and hitting all errors 10 feet behind the baseline the whole match. So she never found her game, and she's pretty much just nursing her ankle. But the only other time that she hurt her ankle at the Australian Open and couldn't play was in 2002, and she ended up winning all 3 Grand Slam titles on top of that the rest of the year, and then the Australian Open the next year. So she wins 4 in a row after the Australian Open after an ankle injury. So who knows? She might have a great year after that. So don't feel too badly for her. Feel badly for Li Na. Li Na played Kim Clijsters, and Kim Clijsters, this is a rematch of last year's Australian Open final, and Li Na was up a set and a break. Kim Clijsters came back, took the title in Australia, and Li Na had that same advantage in this match. She took the first set, Clijsters rolled over on her ankle, and that 3-all in the first set, and was playing a little gingerly for a couple games, but Li Na was really just outplaying her, taking it to her, and she broke serve in the second set, had a match point, and then they go to a tiebreak in the second set. Clijsters breaks back, and Li Na still taking it to her, and she's up 6-3 in the tiebreak, 3 match points in a row, 2 of them on her serve. And the last match point, Clijsters hits a very, very not a good drop shot, and Li Na ends up hitting it right back to Clijsters, and Clijsters lobs it right over her head to get to 6-all. At that point, that was the turning point of the match, and Kim Clijsters ended up winning the set, winning the match. And I feel so bad for Li Na. The first question they asked her right when she walked into the press conference was, "Have you been crying before you walked in here?" I mean, that's the worst question to ever ask an athlete. That's just such in poor taste. And she handled it beautifully. She just said, looked at the person like they were crazy, and she said, next question, you know? And then the next question was, how do you deal with a loss like that? And then she just put her hands over her head and broke down and started crying and ran out of the press conference room. And Chris Evert was even commentating on it, saying, they should allow a player a free pass and not have to take the press after a match like that, because she felt demoralized after that match. I mean, she played a perfect match and a perfect game, and she totally should have won. But I'm glad that Kim Clijsters won. It's her last year on the tour, and I've always liked Kim Clijsters, and the Australians love Kim Clijsters. She was engaged to Leighton Hewitt, and they call her Aussie Kim now because of that. But anyway, I hope she makes it through the draw, and I think that she will. I think Kim Clijsters is now a super huge force. Sometimes when you're down in a match and you come back for match points to win a match, then you play with like a free spirit and you just let your ground stroke fly, and I think that's what's going to happen to her. And she's got a good road to get to the finals. And on the other half, you have Kvitova and Maria Sharapova. So I think it's going to be Clijsters versus either Sharapova or Kvitova in the finals. So tune in to watch the Australian Open. It's on right now, ESPN2. Also, you can check out live matches, ESPN3.com. Check out my website, the daily updates, www.professionaltennis2012.com. And I hope you enjoy the matches tonight. Take care.